When TVN cast IU in My Mister, the reaction wasn't excitement. It was a warning. A pop idol, 25 years old, handed one of the bleakest roles on Korean television, across from a veteran nearly twice her age. Before a single episode aired, people had already decided how this ended. They were wrong. This is the story of the casting everyone was sure would fail, and the 8 weeks that quietly rewrote what we'd let an idol be. My Mister is about a worn-down engineer in his 40s and a young woman the world has already written off, who slowly keep each other from breaking. It is not a romance. The people who made it said so before anyone could ask. And here's the strange part. The argument against casting IU turned out to be the same argument the show itself was making about who we underestimate and what we miss when we do. By 2017, IU had already crossed from idol to actress, but the crossing had been rough. Her dramatic roles drew as many complaints as compliments, and the verdict that followed her was simple and cruel, a great singer playing at being an actor. Then came Lee Jae-in, defensive, scarred, almost wordless. A young woman surviving a life that has given her no reason to be soft. Everything IU had been praised for as an idol, the brightness, the charm, Jae-in required her to switch off. And then there was the setup. A gentle title, a man in his 40s, a woman in her 20s, billed as two people who meet. To a lot of people online, that read as one thing only, and the backlash started before the cameras did. The show was accused of selling a fantasy about older men and younger women. The attacks on IU got personal. Taking the role was treated as a betrayal. Worse, she was carrying her own history into it. 2 years earlier, an album of hers had been dragged into a controversy she'd never fully escaped. Playing a young woman beside a much older man looked, on paper, like the single worst follow-up she could pick. At the show's press conference, she admitted she'd almost said no. The director, Kim Won-seok, the man behind Missing and Signal, gave her a short answer. He told her not to worry about it. That was enough, because she'd wanted this. She loved the director's work, and the part pulled at exactly the thing her career had never let her do: stay still, carry a scene with silence instead of sparkle, and he wanted her just as plainly. He'd say later that next to the way IU read Jae-in, his own sense of the character always came up a little short. What she actually did with the role was the opposite of an idol's instinct: no reaching for the audience's affection. She played Jae-in guarded and flat, and trusted us to find the reasons underneath instead of asking to be liked. The thing that finally unlocked it, she said, was the other half of the partnership. As the weeks went on, she stopped seeing her co-star and started seeing only the character he played, and in front of that she could simply be Jae-in. The premiere landed quietly, under 4%. By the early numbers, the doubters looked right, and then it didn't stop climbing. Week after week, the audience grew, not for a twist or a scandal, but because people kept telling other people to watch it. The finale hit around 7.33%, one of the highest figures in the history of Korean cable at the time. The reviews turned with it. The casting that was supposed to sink the show became the reason no one could stop talking about it. The performance people had prejudged was suddenly the one that made them call her, without the qualifier, an actor. The awards came in behind the audience. Top Excellence Actress at the Japan Star Awards, Acting Honors at the Asia Artist Awards, and at the Baeksang Arts Awards, Korea's most serious film and TV prize, My Mister won Best Drama and Best Screenplay, and IU earned the first Best Actress nomination of her career. She kept the door it opened, too. A few years later, the director Hirokazu Koreeda cast her in Broker. Go back to the warning that an idol couldn't carry a show like this. The doubt was never really about whether she could act. It was about whether we'd let her be more than the thing we'd already filed her under. My Mister spends 16 hours arguing that the person everyone has written off is worth a second look. Its most doubted decision, made off-screen, turned out to be the very same argument. She wasn't wrong for the role. We were wrong about her.